Alright, let me go ahead and get started by putting the volume down on this a little bit. There's actually a good ass game right now. The Kansas City Chiefs, Chargers, deciding a lot in the division. So yeah, let me actually bring it down some more. So what up, team? It's your boy Ola, and I'm gonna go ahead on a topic that was from like 4 or 5 days ago, but I didn't really get to touch too much base on it, and it seems like the topic came, it left, it seems like it's coming back again. So it's basically about the suspensions and the whole situation that happened with the Steelers and the Browns, and before we even get started, I just want y'all to know that I'm not giving like a biased opinion. I'm not here trying to pick sides. I'm not trying to say one person was more right, one person was more wrong. I'm just trying to give basic objective of what I seen, what I first got the impression of, and then also expressing how other people who also have agreed with the same thing that I was thinking. So I'm going to go ahead and touch base on that. So first off, I do believe that yes, Myles does deserve to be suspended, of course. No doubt about that. I'm not disagreeing with that. I mean, I do think it should have been something between. They put it indefinite, so it may go into the next season. I think, to be honest, maybe 4 to 5 or 5 to 6 games, meaning the rest of the season, would have been suitable. They're actually not only just giving him all the games this season, potentially more games next season, which a lot of people like Stephen A. Smith are predicting should be an additional 4 to 8 games in the new season. Um, I know the situation was really bad. It made the NFL look bad. And I know the NFL is looking to reduce the whole head trauma thing. But I think we overly can't overly penalize someone just because the NFL is looking to break down and cut down on the whole um, situation with the head traumas. So I get that we should be tough on situations like this, but I don't think we need to go to the point of getting an additional 4, 6, 8 games into the new season. I think that's a little bit excess. And then on top of that, not only are they giving him the indefinite, but also the remaining games of this season, they're not even paying him. So the rest of the games he's getting without pay. So that alone, that's a huge loss in his pay, in his pockets. So that right there alone is a big dagger. So I think with the games this season, losing the remainder of the season and not getting paid for the remaining games, I think that's already huge enough as it is. Y'all might disagree, but that shit is pretty tough already. Um, I do agree that Pouncey should have got definitely suspended. I think 3 games for his might have been, I guess, somewhat suffice. I personally think that on the replays, they overly played the Miles attack, but they didn't play the Pouncey. And that to me is weird because if you look back and see Pouncey's attack, um, dude, like his teammate was holding Miles to the ground and Miles was basically defenseless and had no way to defend himself and had no way to strike back. And Pouncey, which to me looked like an even more cowardly move. I mean, some say Miles was a little bit cowardly for hitting, Mason with his own helmet over the head. But then think about Pouncey. He legit was striking this man, punching him like a thug, and kicking his head as if the situation had anything to do with him. Now, I understand it's your quarterback, you got to defend them. But I think Pouncey took it to the next level as well. To me, if you're going to give Miles indefinitely, I think Pouncey's got to come close to a similar situation because you're beating up a defenseless man who's on the ground. And I get that he's reacting to the situation for his quarterback. Anybody would. But the level of how he did it, he didn't even face the man one on one. He legitimately was pounding him while the man was being held down by his own teammate, which to me, that's like a pussy ass move. So if you're going to call, and then you have Mason calling, um, Miles cowardly and and it's like a bush league type move and shit like that. But in Pouncey, I mean, to me, he looked like a bigger coward because situation had nothing to do with him, and he's beating a defenseless guy. So for me, I'm not saying I would have went to the point of indefinitely for Pouncey. I think when I first took it, I said 3 or 4 games is probably good, but the level that they're going with Myles, as far as indefinitely this season plus possible games next season plus no pay, I think Pouncey should have got a little bit, not necessarily the same exact discipline, but close enough to where maybe you give him 4 or 5 games and no pay. Or if you're just going to give him 3 games, the 3 games or 4 games, no pay. So I think, and also the replay just kept going on. Like they showed the Myles replay for like, dude, I'm not even exaggerating. I must have seen that shit 30 or 40 times during the game. And Pouncey, they showed that shit like 3 or 4 times, maybe 5 at best. You know what I'm saying? So it was almost like they didn't want to show what he did, as if what he did had no type of fault. And to me, he has big fault because it had nothing to do with him. Again, he's defending his quarterback, but not to that point. So I think that Pouncey should have got a little bit more, but 3 games, 3 games at least, is some form of justice. Now, I believe that even though Myles was wrong in this situation, I believe that Mason Rudolph should have got at least at bare minimum a 1 game suspension and not just leaving off with, oh yeah, we're gonna give him a fine. And the reason why I say that is because I gotta agree with the experts on this one, the commentators. Usually I don't agree with them, but Max Kellerman brought up a great point. Samuel Jackson, Ice Cube, um, the people on NFL Total Access right at the end of the game. Let me give some names here. David Carr, um, James Jones, and Willie McGinnis. 3 guys on NFL Total Access all had the same opinion. And they all brought up the fact that Mason basically instigated the situation. We don't know what he said until this day. We still don't know. But Mason instigated the situation. Mason was upset of the whole tackle. Now, I get that some people could say that whole tackle probably started it, but that's just a regular whole tackle, bro. Like, they've done that shit in the 80s and the 90s and early 2000s. Like, that, those kind of tackles ain't a really big deal. So for Mason to take that so offensive, try to rip off the helmet, in my opinion, Mason started the shit. If he would have never tried to rip off the helmet, it wouldn't have happened. Then he's talking shit while he's trying to rip off the helmet. And then you got to take into account that he wouldn't even have got hit in the head if he didn't chase the man down. Now, let's just do real street talk here. If a man tries to do something to you and then you retaliate, who do you think is going to be the one that's going to get in trouble if the cops show up? It's going to be the man that started the shit, not the man that defended himself. No matter what form of how bad the defense was, whether it be knife, gun, whatever, right? Whoever started this shit is the one that has the right to defend themselves. It's not just, well, I got to defend myself to the level of what you think is right. No, if you're under attack, you have every right to defend yourself how you are. Now I understand it's a little different because it's NFL, so you gotta be more professional, obviously. So obviously we can't necessarily condone the actions of Myles, but on the same token, they took Myles away. The situation was already over. You know, Myles ripped off the helmet, yes, but that's because he's stronger. And they try to downsize this shit, talking about, oh well, Myles is a stronger, bigger man. He's what, 6'7", 270 or some shit. They acting like Mason is a child. Mason is like legit what, like 6'4" or some shit, and he's like 240. So it's like a 30-pound weight difference. You know what I'm saying? And so like we're acting like it's a grown man beating up on a teenager or some shit, or it's a grown man beating up on like a 15-year-old. They're both grown men. So at the end of the day, Mason knew what he was doing. Mason knew what was going to start Myles up. And on top of that, you got to think about that if the Steelers are trying the best that they can to catch up to the Ravens, they got to do whatever they can to make sure that nothing's going to get in the way. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like they're real salty because they're not going to catch up to the Ravens. The Ravens are going to win the division, and Steelers are not even going to probably make wild card. You know what I'm saying? So to me, it's just, I think it was just a level of frustration And so they also the Browns have been, I'm not a Browns fan, but they actually been doing good the last, 5 or 6 games. Started winning games, started getting opportunity to possibly make something in the division or at least wild card. And I just think, that loss Steelers, they knew what was on the line. They knew that their season is drifting away from catching up to the Ravens. They knew that, they needed to retaliate and make these guys get pissed off to not have their season go in the right direction. So I mean, I think it's a lot of variables that we don't see that dealt with the situation. And to me, I feel like Mason, he instigated it, he started it. At the bare minimum, man, he should have gotten a 1 game suspension. Bare minimum. I don't think he should have been obviously indefinite because he didn't go to the point of getting indefinite. But I do feel like the guy's already moving away. Your teammate is moving him away. And you're going to go and chase him. And then you got hit over the head. And then you look at the refs with your hands in the air looking stupid as if you didn't know why the fuck he hit you. And another thing to take into account is that Myles didn't chase him. He retaliated when he saw the man was going to come after him. So all he did was defend himself. Might not have been the right level of defense, but that's all it was. It was defense. And he apologized. He even stated that his teammates should not have chased or should not have retaliated to, help him out. He said he appreciated that they did, but it was all on him. So he took full responsibility. He went out and gave the statement literally, like at the end of the game. And that the NFL did not even take that under consideration, even an ounce. So then what was the point of the man even apologizing? Because the NFL said they waited to see what his response was going to be, and his response was immediate. It's not like he waited 2 days, 3 days. The shit was literally after the whole thing happened at the end of the game. So the fact that he took ownership, took accountability, which to me, most people these days don't even take accountability for their shit. They just blame others, or he never blamed Mason. He never called him a coward. He never stated what Mason stated to. He never said what Mason stated to piss him off, because he did say. He said, I'm not even gonna comment or attest to what was said. I just take full blame." So he took full responsibility and didn't even mention that Mason was instigating him. You know what I'm saying? But then Mason didn't seem remorseful of the situation when they interviewed him, and he called Myles a coward. So I mean, this shit just don't add up, man. Myles should have got, to me, maximum 4 to 6 games, not indefinite and possible next season, and losing all pay for this season. That was hella excess. That was excess as fuck. So that's my opinion on it. You ain't gotta agree. You ain't gotta disagree. Leave your comments. I'm looking forward to doing more videos. It may not be just on NFL, but I want to touch base at least on this topic. And if y'all like what you hear, like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to try to make this a regular thing about different topics, different things. If you don't like what you hear, fucking keep tuning in, because at the end of the day, everybody needs haters. Haters make us popular, and controversy creates cash. So haters, you fucking welcome, just as much as all the love. So with that being said, I'm going to cut this shit short. It's already been about 13 minutes. I'm going to get back to the game. I hope y'all have a good night. And if y'all have any ideas or suggestions or more shit you want to hear about, just hit me up.